Today we're going to talk about one-step equations vocabulary. Some key definitions that you need are as follows. A variable, which is a letter used to represent one or more numbers in an expression, equation, or inequality. An example of a variable could be x, y, m, z. Any of those will work fine. Term, a real number or variable or a combination of real numbers and variables. So if you had the equation 3z plus 6 equals 7, it's made up of terms. So here's one term, 3z. Here's a second term, positive 6. And your third term is 7. Coefficient is the number that is multiplied by the variable. So in the example, 3z plus 6 equals 7, the coefficient is 3. 3 is being multiplied by the variable. Keep in mind, if you had the example x plus 4 equals 8, the coefficient in this case, since there is none written, it's called the invisible coefficient, and it's 1. So anytime you just have the variable, such as above here, it's 1x, 1y, 1m. You don't have to write it though. Constant, the term that does not contain a variable. So in the example, 3z plus 6 equals 7, you have two constants. The plus 6, yes, include the plus, and 7. Let's label some examples below. In this example, you have negative 3y plus 7 plus 10. So the negative 3, that's considered your coefficient, because it is the number being multiplied by the variable, which gives us our next part. The y is considered a variable. The 7, positive 7, is considered a constant. And the positive 10 is also considered a constant because there is no variable that is, because it does not contain a variable. These are also considered terms. Negative 3y is a term, positive 7 is also a term, and positive 10 is also considered a term. The entire portion of this, negative 3y plus 7 plus 10, is considered an expression because there is no equals. On your own, label the parts below. Check your answers. If you have any questions, ask your teacher. Turn to the next page and we're going to practice solving equations. One-step equations. What is the goal of solving equations? And that is to get the variable by itself. In order to do this, we need to perform the inverse operation. And we talked about inverse operations. Okay, for the inverse of addition, is subtraction. The inverse of subtraction is addition. The inverse of multiplication is division. And the inverse of division is multiplication. So let's look at the first two problems. B plus 14 equals 27. The first thing that you want to do is draw a line down from the equal sign. This is very important. It separates the equations to have two sides. B plus 14. So here's your variable, b. You're trying to get that by itself, so you need to move the positive 14. In order to do that, you need to take the inverse. So the inverse of plus 14 is minus 14. What you do on one side, you must do on the other side of the equal sign. That's why we draw the line. So a positive 14 and a negative 14 cancel. You bring down your b equals, and 27 minus 14 is 13. So that's how you solve for b. Okay, there's always a way to check your answer so you can know if you're doing it right or wrong. Write the original equation. Of just the left side. You can write the whole thing, it's fine. You want to plug in your answer for the variable. So 13 plus 14. 13 plus 14, you have to add it. You get 27. Does that equal the other side of the equation? Yes, it does. So you know you did this right. It's a balance. For number 2, negative 5 equals w minus negative 4. Anytime you have minus a negative, you need to rewrite it so it is plus a positive. Okay, so negative 5 equals w plus 4. Draw your line. Find your variable. You're getting the w by itself. So I have w plus 4. The inverse of plus 4 is minus 4. What you do on one side, you must do on the other. So these cancel, leaving you just with a w. Negative 5 and negative 4 are same signs, so you add and keep the sign to give you negative 9. When you go to check your answer, I'm going to write the simplified of w plus 4. So negative 9, because you want to substitute your answer in for w, plus 4 is negative 5. Negative 5 matches our solution of negative 5. So you know you did the answer right. Let's look at a few more problems. 7 times s equals 56. Anytime you have a number and a variable smushed together like that, you know it's multiplication. So the inverse operation of 7 and s, 7 times s, is dividing. So I'm going to divide each side by 7. Your 7's cancel, leaving you with just s equals 8. Let's check our answer. Substitute in what you got for s. So 7 times 8 is 56. 56 matches our other side of the equation, so you know you did the work right. Let's look at number 4. Draw your line. This reads r divided by 6 equals 3. So the inverse operation of dividing by 6 is going to multiply by 6, because multiplication is the inverse of division. What I do on one side, I must do on the other. So you're dividing by 6 and multiplying 6 cancel, leaving you just with r equals 18. Circle your answer. Now let's go check. R divided by 6. Substitute what you got in for r. 18 divided by 6 equals 3. 3 equals our other side of the equation of 3. So check, you know you did it right. Let's try number 5. 1/2 times c equals 1/2. Anytime you have a fraction like this, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal, because that's what we do when we divide fractions. So instead of saying, this is 1/2 times c, instead of dividing by 1/2, when we divide by fractions, we keep switch flip, so you're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. So what you do on one side, you must do on the other. So your 1/2 and 2 cancel, leaving you as c equals 12 times 2 is 24. Circle your answer. Now check your work. 1/2 times c. 1/2 times 24. Place a 1 underneath the 24. 1 times 24 is 24. 2 times 1 is 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 12 equals 12, so you know you did your work right. Let's try one more together. -3 times w. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide each side by -3. Remember, your fraction bar represents division. Your -3's cancel, leaving you a w. 9 divided by -3 is -3. Circle your answer. Now check your work. Write down your original problem, then substitute what you got in for your variable. -3 times -3 gives you a +9. +9 equals +9. Check you did your work correct. Let's turn a couple pages down. Skip page 9. Let's move to where it says more one-step equations practice. Let's look at a few word problem examples. And the first example, it says 60 less some number is 40. So there's no flip word here. So 60 less some number is 40. Draw your line, and this is going to be a two-step process. This is a +60, because here's your coefficient, your variable. You've got to move 60, it's positive, so the opposite of a positive, or the inverse of a positive, is a negative. So I'm going to subtract 60 on each side. I still have a subtraction sign here. Remember, a subtraction is also a negative. So bring down a -x equals a -20. I still need to get the x by itself. I still need to move the negative over. Remember, this is considered a -1 times x. You have that invisible coefficient. So divide each side by -1, and you get x equals a +20. Circle your answer. Now let's check. 60 minus x, 60 minus 20, which equals 40. That is what we got. Pause the video, try 10, 11, and 12 on your own. Check your answers with the following problems. If you have any questions, ask your teacher. Now try the challenge problems 13, 14, 15, and 16 at the bottom of the page. Check your answers. If you have any questions, ask your teacher.